Welcome, everybody. My name is Myron Arnowit. I'm the Pennsylvania Director for Clean Water Action, and welcome to our virtual Clean Air Rally. We are here because of an unfortunately recurring problem we have where we will have a terrible week of terrible air. And the recent week of poor air quality, code orange days in the Mon Valley and throughout Allegheny County earlier in November is something that we know needs immediate action. And we are here to encourage action at all levels. We especially are calling on industry and US Steel to take notice of what happened and to make sure that this does not reoccur. 7 days of violating state standards is too much. 3 days of violating federal standards is too much. We have too many people at risk in the Mon Valley and Allegheny County to continue having code orange days. And some of the readings were stunningly high, 3 times the 24-hour standard at times, getting into the code red zone, which is unhealthy for everybody, not just people who have a respiratory problem or not just people who are young or elderly. This is a serious problem which needs to be addressed, and residents are here today to say enough and to say that we need action. Our first speaker is going to be Cheryl Hurt. She is a longtime community activist in Clairton and is with a new organization of residents in the Clairton area called Valley Clean Air Now. And I will pass this off to Cheryl.
Hello, everyone. I'm a lifetime resident of Clairton, born, raised, reared. I have been involved with different activities here in my community, trying to pass on legacies that would be positive. When I wake up in the mornings and look out of my window and see the pollution, it really gets me alarmed. I also have a daycare in my home, so I have a monitor, and if it's too high, we don't go outside. It's been really high in the last week. So it's to the point now that in our lives, we have to worry about the election. Now we're worrying about COVID. But here in Clairton, we have another level that a lot of you don't have to deal with, and that's the air pollution. Which of these are making us sick, having flu-like symptoms, allergy-like symptoms, and it's just really affecting our physical lives. I'm calling and asking different officials, because really it begins in the federal government, the county government, the state government, because unless some of the things that have been put out there to stop this pollution is enforced, what you see is what will continue to happen and get worse. So it's time now for you to sit back and think about all the things that you're worried about and add our pollution to that. A little bit too much.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I just want to mention that along with the speakers, we are showing some video that's been put together of US Steel facilities in the Mon Valley, the Clairton Coke Works, and the Edgar Thompson plant, which were taken during the week of extremely poor air quality that we recently suffered in November. Our next speaker is going to be Dave Meckel. Dave is a longtime Glassport resident, also with Valley Clean Air Now, and he will talk about what it's like to live across the river from US Steel.
Yes, my name's Dave Meckel, and I moved to Glassport when I got out of the Marine Corps. I've been here for about 22 years. And I noticed that these past 7 days that they mucked up the air with their particulate pollution. I want to say one thing, though, that U.S. Steel is a silent killer. They kill pets and they kill people and they kill bushes and trees. And then the air pollution people at the health department will call and say, this is a code orange day. Be a good turtle and go into your shell and don't come out until we tell you that you can breathe clean air again. This is ridiculous. This stuff sticks on the side of my house like glue, and it turns green and orangish color. And I have to take a scrub brush and bleach and chemicals from a janitorial supply place and scrub my house down on the outside to get this green stuff off my siding. All these little black sooty particulates float right into my house. I don't have air conditioning. I have to open the windows if I want to breathe clean air, but I can't do that because of U.S. Steel and their pollution. I even have their particulates inside my house, inside another room that lays on the top of my light fixtures. I mean, little black pieces of soot. And that's inside where it should be outside. It should be cleaned up completely. And it's cheaper for U.S. Steel to pay the fines that they get than fix their machines. Right now, I know I'm willing to bet my money that they do not have a backup if they have another fire. They're just totally irresponsible. They don't care about human life. Look at all the people that have worked for them for over 100 years. How many of them have died of cancer? Quite a lot, quite a lot. This is ridiculous. It shouldn't be allowed to go on. They need to be punished severely. Make the fine so it hurts them. The fine doesn't hurt them. You fine them $2 million. They're making $1 billion. What's 2 million? That's nothing. And basically, if they're allowed to do this, we're going to suffer more.
Thank you, Dave, for your comments.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate you being here. So our next speaker is going to be Edith Abeta from a different part of the Mon Valley. She is with North Braddock Residents for Our Future, a nearby resident to the Edgar Thompson Works in Braddock.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. And I just wanted to say thank you to Cheryl and Dave, neighbors across the river, for speaking about their experiences and what it's like living in the Mon Valley. And I think I just want to take a quick moment. I know I don't have too much time, but I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge the strength and risk that they take by speaking out, right? As we all know, U.S. Steel is very powerful. It has a lot of influence. It's been in our backyards for 12 decades, 120 years. So I just want to say it's not an easy thing for people to be public about their dissatisfaction about air quality. And I think one of the things that's awesome about this rally is that even though as the COVID cases go up and we're not able to come together outside of the Edgar Thompson plant or Clarendon Coke Works to voice our complete frustration and dissatisfaction with them as a neighbor, we need to get more people speaking out against this powerful force. And so this is a great opportunity to do this. And I just wanted to talk really quickly. I mean, I have similar experiences that Cheryl and Dave mentioned as far as impacts when hydrogen sulfide levels are really high. Hydrogen sulfide is not something that I have any way to limit, right? Like I don't admit that, people don't admit it, cars don't admit that. So this is definitely something that we want US Steel to get under control so that we can go outdoors, so that we can open our windows. Like Dave said, a lot of us live in old homes without central air, myself included. And even when our windows are closed, these sulfuric smells waft into our houses and impact us on a regular basis. And so, you know, there's some really great tools if people aren't familiar who are attending this rally that you can use. And one really accessible one, if you have a smartphone, is the Smell Pittsburgh app. And since we're talking about some hydrogen sulfide emissions that exceeded for more than a week, that's a great place to start. Myself, I have a purple air monitor that's at my house, and I checked it right before I joined in on the rally, and it's reading at 52. So yeah, then we also have the breathe cams that have been playing in between speakers. If you want to see what the emissions look like from Clairton Coke Works or Edgar Thompson, and there's a whole bunch of other resources that universities are working on, scientists, crowdsourcing, regular community people. And all I just really want to say is just like, we need more people to speak out, and that way it won't be so hard. It won't be so hard for the rest of us. Thanks a lot for putting this together.
Great. Thank you, Edith. Appreciate it. So we are going to, Edith mentioned some of the different tools, especially the Smell Pittsburgh app that a lot of folks in the region are using to help them know what the air quality is like in their area and to be able to register complaints when there are problems. Mark Dixon has put together a video documenting the level of Smell Pittsburgh complaints that were registered during our past week of code orange and bad air days. And Mark, I'm going to hand this over to you. He can explain the video and play it for folks. Mark, are you muted?
Sorry about that, trying to do too many things at once. This video basically takes a look at what Pittsburgh would sound like if you could hear the smells. It was affectionately created by myself, but the idea for it emerged during a brainstorming conversation with a Breathe Project intern, Galise, I believe. So we had a fun time exploring how to really make these smells more visceral. And I think that this video will go into that a bit. And so this is a highlight of the smell reports that were submitted during the week that we're all talking about, the 2nd through the 11th of November. And make sure you have all your audio turned up for this. And I have it here. Yeah, if Pittsburgh sounded like it smelled. Can you see it okay? So ordinarily during the credits, you watch the names of the people who made it. This is a list of unique smell complaints during the period that we're talking about. Over 1,200 complaints above a level 2, and the level 2 through 5 is the level that's where it's not just fine. Level 1 is just fine. And so this goes on for a while. And this is just from this one stretch of time. Pittsburghers in all over the region had this to say about what their air is like to breathe. And you can see on the map that in the map and animation that you saw earlier with the Smell Pittsburgh app, it's not just the East End where people are submitting these complaints. So this is a list of what it smells like. And then in just a moment, it's going to switch to what it felt like. So we switch to the unique symptoms reported. And this is, I've removed the entries with curse words. At least I made an attempt. But there were several in there. And also, this is all totally open information. You can go yourself to smellpgh.org and download the list of smell complaints, just like I did to create this list, and see for yourself. And you can see for yourself, read through all the tens of thousands of other complaints that have been submitted since the app was brought out of beta in mid-late 2016. And this video is now public online. You can find it on YouTube at the link that I just entered in the chat. I'll also be releasing it to Facebook here right now. A couple of extra stats. Since late September 2016, more than 47,000 smell complaints rated 2 through 5 have been submitted to the app. Over 6,000 in 2017, 8,000 in 2018, over 16,000 in 2019, and if trends continue, we could see over 17,000 smell complaints submitted in 2020. 2 of the top 3 months for smell reports were January 2020 and September 2020. Though I developed that information before this event, I believe. There it is. That's it.
Great.
Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Mark. That's quite amazing. And just another level of what's happening in our region regularly. Our next speaker is Jermaine Patterson. Jermaine is a Clairton resident. She is a community health worker with Women for a Healthy Environment and is also with Valley Clean Air Now. And just before we go to Jermaine, if members of the press have questions for speakers, please feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand, and we're happy to address any questions. Jermaine?
Yes, greetings everyone. So that video, wow. I feel like I don't need to say anything. It really speaks volumes. But what I would like to say is that on the sad days that we are speaking of, God gave us beautiful days, 7 beautiful days, but US still gave us pollution. It's really sad. And I would say within the past year, I've really come to realize what the air pollution is doing to the community. And just seeing that video makes it even more outrageous. When I think of the children, particularly here in Clairton, yesterday I took pictures of a few children. I'm holding the sign, Clean Air Now. They had smiles on their face. And what came to my mind was, if they really knew, they would not be smiling. If they really knew, they would not be smiling. But I'm sorry, I did not expect to do this. But there you have it. But I do need to say that more people do need to speak out. It's important. Over the past year, I'm realizing the importance of speaking up for those who cannot speak up for themselves. So I'm a part of ACAN, which is a grassroots organization here in Clairton. I also work for Women for a Healthy Environment. And our mission is to make sure that children and families have an environment in which they can play in, which they can go to school in, which they can live in. And with the pollution that we have, that is not happening. So I plead to everyone who can speak out, who feel comfortable with speaking out, particularly here in Clairton. People are afraid to speak out. And U.S. Steel is a big industry, I understand. But the more people that speak out, the better. There is power in numbers. There is power in numbers. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jermaine. Well, I can think of no better person to wrap us up with here than Thadeus Popovich. Thadeus has been a force for clean air in Allegheny County for a number of years. He is representing Allegheny County Clean Air Now, and I will turn this over to Thadeus.
Myron, real fast, we got a question from Reed Frazier. You can take it now, or if you want to wait till after Thaddeus is done, let me know. For those speakers in the Mon Valley, can you talk about what you experienced during the inversions? Did you leave your houses? What was that like? Would you like that to address that now or after Thaddeus?
Sure. Sure. If there's a Mon Valley resident who'd like to respond to that question, sure.
I can respond to that. So I typically exercise outside. I consider myself fairly healthy, but on one day in particular, was the Sunday. I did go outside to exercise, but I was forced to go inside because I started to get heart palpitations. And I know that was.
Jermaine, you're cutting out a little bit. Try to speak, maybe just move your head a little closer to the microphone and speak a little louder. There was a background noise somewhere. Apologies for that.
Okay, that's okay. It's probably a truck. Probably a U.S. Steel truck. So on that particular Sunday, I was forced to go back in because my heart started palpitating. And I do know that it was a result of the air quality. And it's a shame because we had beautiful days, beautiful November days. And to be forced to go back inside. And so I didn't spend a lot of time out. I didn't.
I would just like to make a quick comment. I find myself trying to stay as far away as possible from my house and the Mon Valley and the neighborhood I live in North Braddock when the air quality is bad. Not that you can really escape it anywhere, but I realized yesterday when I was driving home, and as I was driving home, you know, there's a certain point where I kind of hit this wall of smell a lot of times, coming off the Rankin Bridge and driving onto Braddock Avenue. And I was like, oh, you know, the more I leave the area, the less I am confronted with these smells. So I think it was more kind of a subconscious thing, and I didn't really even realize I was doing it until yesterday. But I do love where I live. I love my neighbors. It's a beautiful place. So I would say, like, let's encourage let's encourage the government, the county, US Steel, anyone that we can to yeah, I mean, keep the region clean so Jermaine can go outside, so kids can breathe the air, so I don't have to stay away from my house. Thanks.
Myron, there was another question from Don Hopi, who asks, what were the highest readings on the worst days of the week in question?
I know that the daily standard for fine particulates is 35 micrograms per cubic meter. I believe that there were daily averages as high as the high 40s. I also know that there were hours where it was over 90.
There's a spike that reaches 104 micrograms per cubic meter at the Lincoln ACHD site. The Glassport ACHD site has another one that reaches 116 micrograms per cubic meter. I'll add a link in the chat.
These are, and I will say that this is under a situation in which US Steel is actually operating under reduced production because of the pandemic and the recession that's been happening. I can't imagine what these numbers would be like if they had been at full production.
And Anna just posted a link in the chat to, I think, her reference. Thanks, Anna.
Thanks.
Those are the only questions that I think are outstanding in the chat. If you have asked a question and we have not brought it up, please add it to the chat. Thanks, Myron.
Sure. Well, let's return to Thaddeus. Take it away.
Oh, Thaddeus, you're muted.
You're right. How's that? Okay. Again, my name is Thadeus Popovich. I am a co-founder of Allegheny County Clean Air Now, also known as ACAN. Over the past year, the Mon Valley works of US Steel, especially the Clairton Coke Works, regularly exceeded allowable pollution limits and fouled communities with particulates, hydrogen sulfide, and volatile organic compounds, including benzene. I know of these things because having lived too long across the river from the Shenango Coke Works when it was operational, I could feel it in my bones. During Christmas week of 2019, I was diagnosed with acute bronchitis and sinusitis. It took me 3 visits to emergency care to eventually resolve my condition. It was very painful and worrisome. It was a dirty air week, and I noted a pollution plume via airnow.gov that stretched from the Mon Valley Works to the northern edges of Allegheny County. I resolved at that time to leave the Pittsburgh area in order to preserve my health. Almost a year later, during this latest period of exceedances, November 4th through 10th, the Avalon monitor in the North Boroughs exceeded federal health-based standards for particulates, a PM 2.5. Fellow ACAN co-founder Karen Grzyzynski could not enjoy the warm outdoor temperatures, even for a few minutes. She was forced to retreat indoors since she would become congested and would experience the onset of multiple asthma attacks. And this is many miles away from the Mon Valley work, so we were suffering with our Mon Valley colleagues at the same time you were suffering. It's time to call out U.S. Steel management and demand that they protect the health of county residents by investing and improving the quality of their operations. We must write to them, citing this demand and asking them to walk with us through our communities that are suffering from their lack of leadership and foresight. And I have included in my comments the name of David Burritt, President and Chief Executive Officer, U.S. Steel Corporation, corporate headquarters, and you can write to him at 600 Grand Street, Pittsburgh, PA, 15219. I found that on their corporate website. We are concerned that U.S. Steel is wavering on its commitment to Pittsburgh. When asked on October 31 about plans to spend some $1.5 billion upgrading its Mon Valley works with a combined casting and rolling mill, CEO David Burritt stated, and I quote, "The key word in all of this is really the optionality. We can decide to put it in the Mon Valley. We can decide to put it somewhere else." Mr. Burritt told analysts at the tail end of the company's third quarter earnings conference call, quote, "We have a lot of flexibility to decide where this goes." Furthermore, United States Steel can decide where this money goes and when we pull the trigger. His closing comment was, and I quote, "I'm going to let you continue to wonder," unquote. Now, how great a commitment is that? This lack of commitment and investment continue to put the health of residents of Allegheny County at risk, as well as the jobs of people who are working at U.S. Steel's facilities. And I will comment a bit on David Burritt's salary. He makes $13,318,000 a year. I can't even imagine a number like that. U.S. Steel stock called, which is called X on the U.S. New York Stock Exchange, was trading at $45 per share in 2017 when he took over as their CEO. The stock is now trading at about $11 a share. How much time does he spend in Pittsburgh visiting communities that are impacted by the facilities that he is responsible for? I think it's time to hold him and his leadership team accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Well, this brings us to the end of our Clean Air Rally. Thanks everybody for coming. I would just make one comment before we part. Allegheny County Health Department is announcing today that they're opening up for public comment on proposed new regulations on coke ovens in Allegheny County. And this is an enormous opportunity for our region to take steps forward to address some of these problems. We hope that our region's leadership and our region as a whole and the public will take this opportunity to finally make some changes and address these problems which have happened over and over and over. It's time for this to stop. Thank you. Are there any other questions from members of the media?
I don't see any, but I think maybe if we just wait for a moment, they can get their thoughts together. Meanwhile, we have plenty of entertainment. There have been some posts from Matt Mihalik and Rachel Filippini about the levels, some data about what the levels were during that week we're talking about. for those on Facebook, actually, Matt Mihalik posted, the Liberty Monitor exceeded the daily standard of 35 micrograms per meter cubed on 3 days during the 7-day period. It was November 6th, 7th, and 8th. And the Avalon Monitor also exceeded the daily PM 2.5 standard 2 days during the same time period. But there's a couple questions. Can you describe what we're seeing on the cams? And then Reed Fraser also asks, can someone post correct spellings of the speaker names? Is there a contact for Valley Clean Air now? I believe I have a list of the speakers. I'm going to post it, and then Myron, you can let me know if there are any incorrect spellings there. So there you go, Reed. And then regarding what we're seeing on the cams, would somebody like to take that? This is Edgar Thompson right now. I'm always fascinated by how they have that nice new big stack just next to the ones that are spewing a lot of plumage. And then there doesn't seem like there's anything coming out of that nice new stack, maybe because they're scrubbing it or they're not using it right now. But I always wonder to myself, perhaps naively, why don't they run that smoke through that stack? See what happens. I know there's systemic issues probably there, but so this is Edgar Thompson, and then there's also some images of Clairton Coke Works. These are Clairton here. There we go. These are Clairton now.
Yeah, I will say in the Clairton, you're looking at kind of the backside of some of the coke oven batteries, and there's a lot of general leakage happening from the batteries, which is the chronic problem there. And you can see how it builds up in the valley, that it just turns into this haze that stays there.
Now we're back to Edgar Thompson. Any other questions?
If people need contact information for other folks in Valley Clean Air Now, please reach out to me directly, and I can provide that.
And here's the link on YouTube for the Smell Pittsburgh video with the coughing. And I've pulled together a YouTube version of the plumes that you're watching right now. You can find it at this link.
Well, if there aren't any further questions, I think we're going to wrap up for now. But if there are ones that occur, please reach out to the contacts listed on the press release, and we can connect people and get any questions answered. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation in this, and hope everyone has a healthy day.
Thank you. Thank you.